All right. What's going on, everybody? This is Derrick Broze with the Conscious Resistance Network. Hopefully you guys can hear me okay. Let me know if it's coming in all right. The volume sounded good on my end. Cool. Music playing. Everything sounds good. Sweet. This is episode 104 of the Conscious Resistance Live. As I said, my name is Derrick Broze. I've been broadcasting here on this channel and via the Conscious Resistance website and network since 2012, 2013. This is a weekly, sometimes weekly podcast I do, trying to educate people about what's going on in the world and just talking about all the real stuff and bringing it from a more, I guess you could say, spiritually conscious perspective. We have 5 different stories that I want to get into today. For those of you who've tuned in before, sometimes I cover news, sometimes we just get into other real stuff, but today I do have some news to cover, and the title of today's episode is There's Still Time to Turn It Around. There's a reason that title exists. There's a meaning behind that for those who might want to know. If you're interested to know, let me know, and we can get into that, because those are the 2 topics we're going to focus on today. There's still time to turn it around. What does that mean? Would you like to know about that? Also, we're going to be getting into some stories here. Let me see what I've got pulled up. I'm not going to be on camera today, guys. I'm just chilling. For those who don't know, I've moved into my RV the last couple months, and I'm chilling in my RV right now in the parking lot of a grocery store, running my computer off of a battery that is being run off of my solar panel right now that's facing the sun, and I'm just chilling out here doing this. So technology and off the grid. But I have 5 stories to get into today, including UN peacekeepers fathering hundreds of babies with little girls, updates on what's going on in Hong Kong, and some just questions I think need to be asked. Some more updates on Australia's attempt to fight what they say is fake news about 5G, new legislation related to cryptocurrencies and the digital world in general. That's going to be a big theme today. And then finally, the FCC responds to the Chicago Tribune report that we covered here, where they found that several very popular cell phones are emitting levels of radiation beyond what they claim is safe. And the FCC has responded to that. So lots of good information to get into today. But also, as I said, I want to address this topic of there still being time to turn it around. So we have, I don't know, about a small group of people watching right now live. Thank you guys. If you want to share this out, thumbs up, subscribe. But those who are listening are the ones who get to help decide the flow of the show. So let me know, where would you like to start? Should we dive right into the news, or would you like to hear me talk a little bit about what I mean by there's still time to turn it around, what exactly it may be, what turning around means, and how much time there is? So we can go either direction. In the meantime, I'll remind you guys to bookmark theconsciousresistance.com, which is the home for all of my my work, my essays. You can download my books for free. You can of course get all of our video content, our essays. You can order shirts if you want, things like that. This is just the home for the Conscious Resistance, right? And as I've tried to tell people many times, stop relying on Facebook, stop relying on YouTube. You can follow us on BitChute. All of our videos go on BitChute. We're posting more and more on Minds. I post all the videos on Steam at DTube. I'm a little behind on there, but I'm getting it caught up. And of course, we also have just my website in general. You can follow directly through the website. This is going to be the way to keep up with most of what we're doing here. And I also want to remind those of you who are supporting today that I don't take any money from Google, from YouTube at all. So I don't do these super chats or whatever they're called, and I don't monetize any of my videos. You've never seen an ad on this channel before. And if you appreciate that, please do sign up on Patreon, because as I've told you guys, the Patreon support is going to fund my next documentary, The 5G Trojan Horse, which is already completed as far as my part's done. I've already written it, researched, narrated, recorded the narration, and I've passed it on to my editor, who is the same editor that I worked with on the Epstein documentary and the Finders documentary. And we're just going to keep kicking ass and putting out important information. But, there's no big studio behind me or nobody else funding me to make sure that I can pay him for his editing or pay me for my time. So I rely on you, those of you who give a shit and care about what's going on in the world and want to fund journalism. Because for those who don't understand, when it comes to really doing journalism has always been a struggle. Journalism has essentially always struggled to survive, because it's either You get big funding by some, corporate advertising, which has been the sort of staple of all newspapers and magazines and the internet itself. Putting on ads, people see ads, and that pays the bills. Then there's sometimes you have nonprofits or private benefactors who are going to fund journalism, and sometimes that can be good, but a lot of times they might want to influence the type of journalism you're doing one way or the other. And with the internet, and specifically with social media, and with this sort of being able to directly fund the people you support, it has really revolutionized things. I don't know if you guys all fully understand this, where now a journalist doesn't have to rely on the editor of New York Times. And I interviewed Tariq Haddad the other day. I hope some of you guys saw that interview. He quit his job at Newsweek because his editor was trying to censor him. Now he can go and be independent and continue to do real journalism and have that respect and that credibility, and maybe end up making more money than he would, or at least he'll make enough to survive and have a clean soul. So that's a beautiful part of the internet. So when I do crowdfunding, which I try not to do that often, it's because I want you guys to understand that I value the work I do, and I'm going to do it one way or the other. But I've spent a lot of years doing things for free and just putting myself out there without being able to, sometimes to my own detriment. Those who know me a long time and know that I've been involved in activism for a long time, I was very broke and very poor in the first few years of waking up, so to speak, because I was just driven by trying to talk to people and spread information. And I also decided I wasn't going to pay taxes anymore, and that I wasn't going to play somebody else's game. And so I was, pretty broke in that interim while I was becoming an entrepreneur and figuring out what the hell I was going to do with my life. And now that I've gone towards journalism, I was lucky enough for years to have the support of the Anti-Media, Ben Swan, Activist Post, Mint Press News, all these different outlets that paid my bills and allowed me to, I can write, I can research and do what I love to do and educate people and inform people, and I can still pay my bills and survive and not have to be a bum on the street. That was a really cool feeling. But guess what, guys? We're under attack. The independent media has been under attack for the last couple of years, specifically since 2018, October 2018, the purge that deleted all of the outlets I write for from social media. And even prior to that, I had already lost all my writing gigs last summer, not 2019, but 2018, because we couldn't afford to pay each other anymore. We went from full teams of independent writers and thinkers, people with credibility and with sources out there writing anti-establishment, anti-war pieces and exposing the truth about what's going on, that both parties are full of shit and that both parties are part of this corrupt oligarchy, this coming soon technocracy. And they stopped our ability to put out ads, via Google. Then they started censoring us on social media searches. Then they started suppressing our reach via Facebook and on algorithms and things like that. One of the biggest pages that we still have access to is The Mind Unleashed. The Mind Unleashed is a huge page, has 9 million followers on Facebook, but we don't even reach 10% of that. Can you imagine if we were reaching 9 million people, how we could change the direction of this country? And that's the reason they did that. They started to go after independent thinkers because we were reaching millions and millions of people at the time. And so because of that, they started to attack. Facebook partners with the Atlantic Council, the military industrial complex. I mean, this is the information war, guys, and you need to be a part of it, not just a viewing from the sidelines. But they sunk our battleship, basically, you could say. They took our legs off social media, where we went from, with the Anti-Media, with Free Thought Project and some of these other pages, being able to reach millions and millions of people to nothing overnight. And we did it to ourselves. But because of that, I lost all my writing gigs because there was no more money coming in, and most of the independent media is gone. A year later, most of the independent media is gone. Look at it. Look at the amount of channels that have still survived and that are able to do this. There's a lot of trash out there, but the channels who are doing real good investigative journalism and work, Corbett Report, of course, is a great one, and things of that sort. So, I'm just basically want you guys to understand the value of what independent media is trying to bring. And obviously, I don't think everybody's work's equal. And I actually have a video planned coming soon that's called The Difference Between a Journalist, a YouTuber, and an Activist, because I think that there are some important differences that some people out there just need to understand, the differences between people who actually have standards and people who just speculate all day and just talk a bunch but gain a lot of followers on YouTube. So, long story short, if you support what we do here, join us on Patreon or on Subscribestar. And since we don't do the super chats or any of that stuff, if you want to donate because you support the information I'm bringing to you and the things we're talking about over the next hour, then I would invite you to make a donation to our current fundraiser for the documentary, The 5G Trojan Horse. We've raised $330 out of our goal of $2,000. In addition to this, somebody else privately donated $1,000. So I've already paid the editor some of his costs. If we can get more, I'll pay him even more, and then maybe at the end I'll actually be able to get paid for the 60, 70 hours I spent on this documentary. But we are running this for 21 days, so if anybody at any point you hear something good I say in this broadcast, then please consider putting an investment into our little bucket here. All right, so we're going to get into it, guys. I'll show you a little bit. You can kind of see my folders here. This is just a little background. These are videos I'm working on for the future. This is about Illinois corrupt police cover-up that I've been kind of keeping an eye on. We'll see if I get to that. This is generally keeping up with Chinese surveillance stories. I'll probably do a big video on that soon. We started to look into this whole Epstein and police reports and Sean Atwood and whether or not I trust him. I've been researching the whole Patty Hearst thing and her kidnapping and that whole story and how much of it is real. We got a video of that coming up. Also heard about this Natasha Jayet, I think she was Argentinian model who started speaking out about pedophilia, and then she went on social media and said that she wasn't going to kill herself and then ended up dead. So I mean, somebody suggested that to me. So these are a bunch of rabbit holes that I'm trying to get to, and just a little preview before we get to the actual stories. I've also got this folder here is about modeling and child abuse, and I've been researching. I'm going to do a big video that I'm calling the modeling to pedophilia pipeline, because there's a history of modeling agencies and fashion shows being used to suck young women and young adults in general into that whole pipeline of these sick fucks, and I'm going to explore that in an upcoming video. And then I've got some other ones. Anyway, so I'm going to pull up a couple stories. Let me check out, what do you guys say, reports or turn it around? We'll just go to the reports. We do a little bit of reporting, and then we'll get into this whole, it's not too late to turn it around. What the hell do I mean by that? And again, guys, this is Derrick Broze, the Conscious Resistance Network. Give us a thumbs up, like, share, follow, all that good shit. Somebody told me this is a two-way street. If this is a two-way street, being, I'm broadcasting information, sharing it with you guys, and you are choosing to listen, we're choosing to share space, and I respect you for that, and I honor you for that, and I'm thankful that you want to be here with me, and we can engage and share thoughts and ideas. But for me, the two-way street is, I take time to dig up and find these stories. We compare notes. You guys suggest stories to me. You make comments, and sometimes they're helpful, sometimes they're just out of this world. But the second part of this whole adventure is sharing. That's why social media is supposed to exist, is sharing. Don't just take the information and do nothing with it. We need to spread this information. That's the whole goal. That's why I do this. So please understand that I'm doing this to spread it, because I hope you will spread it as well. All right, this is coming from themindunleashed.com from Darius. Again, one of these writers who used to work for the anti-media and write amazing pieces. He comes back and does one for The Mind Unleashed. Good to see him writing. UN peacekeepers fathered hundreds of babies with girls in Haiti as young as 11. Now, those who have been following my work, we followed the whole Clintons and the Haiti situation from years ago. Of course, there was a hurricane that came through Haiti, and then the UN peacekeepers, the Blue Helmets, came there. There's been allegations for years of sexual abuse and child abuse. We know that Hillary Clinton and some of her people were out there trying to basically run some kind of like foster home scam. So there's all kinds of fucked up things going on there, unfortunately, and when the UN gets involved, it doesn't really get any better. Girls as young as 11 were impregnated by peacekeepers and left in misery to raise their children alone. Thankfully, this has been shared 46,000 times on Facebook alone. There's the benefit of having a bigger page. 46,000 people have heard about this. Hopefully that started discussion. Hopefully that's woken some people up to start questioning the United Nations. Peacekeepers charged with protecting disaster-struck Haiti have fathered hundreds of babies with local women and girls before leaving them behind in poverty, according to a new study published by the University of Birmingham's Sabine Lee and Queen's University's Susan Bartels. Describes the experiences of those people living under the protection of the UN Stabilization Mission in Haiti, or MINUSTA. The studies were based on conversations with over 2,500 Haitians who shared the experiences of women and girls in the community that hosted peace operations. Of the 2,500 talked to, about 10% revealed stories about peacekeeper-fathered children, and girls as young as 11, according to the study, were allegedly sexually abused and impregnated and left in misery to raise their children alone. The children, who have been dubbed Petit Ministre, Bébés Casque Bleu, I don't know how to speak French, or Blue Helmet Babies, or L'Enfant Abandonné, which is pretty obvious, they're saying the children abandoned by the Minister, suggest the children will struggle for the unforeseeable future with a label they had no control over. Some girls were traded for a few coins in order to get food and had sex with peacekeepers as a means of survival. Some girls allegedly had sex with the peacekeepers for just a single meal. The UN mission in Haiti, one of the UN's longest peacekeeping deployments has been riddled with controversy. The Minister was already linked to a sex ring in Haiti, and I believe I reported on this years ago, in which 134 Sri Lankan peacekeepers exploited 9 children in a sex ring from 2004 to 2007. Prior to that, Nepalese soldiers inadvertently introduced a cholera outbreak that reportedly claimed 10,000 lives. Yeah, I remember that. They claim they accidentally released cholera into this community and killed 10,000 people. That couldn't be population control by any means, could it? And then it says in June of this year, the university Oxfam lost thousands of donors after it allegedly covered up an investigation into staff who had been accused of having paid for sex while working in Haiti. The minister has also been accused of gang rape, the rape of a mentally challenged 14-year-old boy, exploitation, and unexplained deaths, torture, and unfortunately it goes deeper. And as Darius notes here, historians also recall that the United States Marines occupied Haiti from 1915 to 1934, with the U.S. interference in the country continuing up till the present day. And under the leadership of Bill Clinton, the U.S. led a military operation dubbed Operation Uphold Democracy into Haiti to remove the military regime that took over the 1991 Haitian coup d'etat. It is also worth noting that Bill and Hillary Clinton have a long and controversial relationship with the Caribbean nation. And that's what I was talking about. Again, if you go back to and searching our videos for Haiti, actually, as far as I think I did one video looking at the whole Pizzagate thing a long while back, and one of the main points I focused on is the whole Haiti angle, that hey, the Clintons do have some ties to these weirdos involved in this kind of shit. So man, it's and this is the kind of headline that we have to stop for a moment, right? I mean, no, there's other stories to cover where the things that are important, but this is how much is going on in our world, guys. Hundreds of babies fathered by UN peacekeepers. And when I investigated this about the last time when I was looking at sexual abuse, these peacekeepers are coming from a variety of countries. And so they basically, they go back home. Right? So somebody accuses them of abusing a child, and there's no repercussions. I haven't seen very many criminal charges or anything, and definitely nobody in the top's being held responsible. And there are now going to be hundreds of fatherless babies out there from women, girls who are already living in poverty and these parts of Haiti. I mean, it's really sad. It's really disgusting. It's disturbing. And I mean, just to play the devil's advocate here, like, I can understand why some people go to the extreme to think that, like, oh, all men are the problem, because they see examples like this and maybe they think this is like, oh yeah, all men are just waiting to be in an example, a position where they can just take advantage. But obviously that's not true. There's something wrong with these fucking people. Whoever the fuck these people are, they got some shit in their heads, and maybe they were molested. I don't know, but all I know is that if you are this, like, you go into another country, you're supposed to be a peacekeeper. I mean, that's it. That's the alleged reason, right? Of course, there are people who would argue, the whole peacekeeper thing is just a front. The whole thing is about abusing children, trafficking children. I think that there's some truth to that, but I don't want to believe, and I don't see evidence to believe that every single person that is part of a UN peacekeeping mission is a part of something else. But it could be true. Maybe they handpick different people from countries who are, okay with these things. But they didn't say 100% of the people. They said that they talked to 2,500 Haitians, and about 10% revealed stories. Of course, we can assume that 10% is a low number, that either some of the women had already left or didn't report or just were afraid, things like that. And so the numbers are probably low, but it's a reality. And I don't want to just move on too quick from this story without actually acknowledging that somebody's lives probably fucked up now, and there will be no accountability for this. All right, let's go to the second story here, and I'm going to post all these links in the description, in the box that you guys are tuned into. Let me drop that in there. All right, that's the Haitian story. Now let's get into another one here. How's everybody doing out there? Can y'all hear me okay? Things going good? We're going to cover one news story, and then we're going to get into, this is the Hong Kong one. I'm really excited about this one, and then we're going to talk about this whole title of the video here. It's not too late to turn it around, and really think about what I'm trying to say there, okay? Again, you're listening to the Conscious Resistance Live. I try to do this I'm not even going to say every Friday. It used to be a Friday thing. Obviously, it's Sunday. Sunday seems more convenient for me, but I try to do it on a weekly basis. Even that's not always the case. But the point is, when I do it, what you can expect is, exploring philosophical topics, political news. Sometimes we'll have guests. And I'm just doing my best, guys, to breathe this information to you and I think it's important. And I hope you guys have been enjoying the content that we've been putting out. This week, I will say, before we move on too quickly, this week I put out 2 videos that were previously unreleased from my Finders file. I hope you guys enjoyed that. That was the full interview of Finders spokesman Toby Terrell, and then the unreleased interview that I did not perform, but that was sent to me during my research with Finders member Michael Howell, who is one of the men who was arrested during the whole 1987 incident. I also released just yesterday an interview I did on local news about 5G. We're going to talk about 5G in just a little bit. And then, of course, I released that interview with Tarak Harad of the formerly of Newsweek, discussing why he chose to leave. And I'm going to do another sort of snippet clip of that video because it's an hour long, and I know that there's a lot of information. And sometimes when you have such an interview, so long, I think it might be important to kind of stop for a moment and to spend some time highlighting the important bits that some people might have missed. And what I will say, the important bit you might have missed is that when I was talking to Tarak, he specifically mentions that there is a former spy, quote unquote former spy, working for Newsweek, and I looked him up. He's openly talked about being an FBI double agent, and now he's trying to help bring down Trump. This guy seems like he's obviously still has connections with the government. And Haddad talks about how Newsweek got 5 breaking stories that week from this undercover, or former spy. Obviously he's getting them from some government contacts that he still maintains, and that completely undermines the credibility of any of these stories that he's bringing out. So I just want to make sure you guys, again, go check out the videos that we're doing, and I've got nearly 10 years worth of videos. So if you haven't gone through and really dug through, make some time. All right, let's get into it. Hong Kong. This is an update on what's been going on in Hong Kong, because we know that there's been protests happening for months now. Let me see if I can show you guys really quickly. I did one report on this a couple months back. I've been following the scenes, and I know that Luke from We Are Change, he went out there, and other people have kind of been keeping up, because I don't like to report too much on international news without some sort of connection. Like, if I can't talk to a local, then it's just basically like I'm some dude on the internet from the other side of the world talking about what I have no idea about from some other culture, and some of that's inevitable, unless we're on the ground and grew up and are surrounded by the culture. It can be difficult to really understand what's taking place. But there are some things that we need to pull apart and really think about when we're talking about this Hong Kong situation, because as I've covered in recent videos, we've talked about the coup in Venezuela, we've talked about the coup in Bolivia, we've talked about the CIA potentially being involved in these unrest going on in Iran. So we know that the intelligence agencies have a bad habit of doing this. And like I said, here you say then they come for Bolivia. And then we did this one. I don't remember when I did this originally, but it's called There's Something Wrong with the Hong Kong Protests. And what I was basically saying in that video is that, for one, if you look up the guy Joshua Wong, who's a young man who's kind of being credited with being a leader of this movement, he has connections to the Western world, going to school in the West. I don't know if it's the U.S., I think it was in the UK, but that's often how some people are trained by Western agencies, by Western NGOs, and there's even outright discussions about it. He's been accused of being involved with the CIA. He talks about it. I have some links here. Go check out that video if you haven't. I don't want to repeat too much of it, but there's definitely reasons to be skeptical of these protests in China. That's not to undermine and to say, every citizen on the street is being paid by George Soros or some bullshit like that. What I'm saying is that the genuine people who are sick of Chinese government shit and who are stepping up, they might not realize that the people who are guiding it have ulterior motives, and it might be the Western government trying to incite movements over there to undermine the Chinese government. And you better believe that the Chinese government, the Russians, and Israelis and other governments who want to undermine U.S. sovereignty and U.S. stability would fund protest movements here. And in fact, that's kind of what I think is going on. I think a lot of this alt-right, Antifa, this kind of culture war that's being created, I do believe it's being created by intelligence agencies, and I've talked about that in other videos. So, all right, let's get to the point here. Hong Kong police arrest 4 alleged financiers of the protest movement. Turns out the protest movement is being funded by some various mysterious organizations that nobody knows anything about. On Thursday, police in Hong Kong announced the arrest of several individuals whom they described as leaders of the Hong Kong protest movement. These individuals, their identities have not been released, were not simply collared out in the street. Instead, police described the four as leaders of Spark Alliance, a mysterious organization that has been one of the main financiers of the protest movement, including by bailing protesters out of jail and helping to defray their legal fees. Police seized around $70 million, well, whatever they use in Hong Kong, I apologize, or $9 million in bank deposits and personal insurance products from Spark, claiming that the group broke laws about money laundering. In a response posted to its Facebook group, Spark blasted the police, accusing them of deliberately trying to cut out one of the most important avenues of financing the protest movement. It said, quote, "The police attempted, through false statements, to distort the work of Spark Alliance as money laundering for malicious uses. Spark Alliance condemns this defamatory action." Now, it's interesting because even Zero Hedge, which is where this article originally comes from, it's on Activist Post, but it's originally from Zero Hedge, Tyler Durden, who typically takes kind of a skeptical approach, seems to buy the mainstream narrative here. And the mainstream narrative is, according to Bloomberg and others, that there are wealthy folks, the middle class and higher in China or in Hong Kong and maybe in China elsewhere, who are funding these protests because although they're not young and they're not willing to be on the streets, they want to fund it. So they've created Spark Alliance and these different groups to fund these protest movements, to get them food, lodging, just all the shit that it takes to go out and be a protester on the street and to basically live on the streets. And if you get arrested, to know that you're going to get out, it does take money. And this is an interesting approach. If you think about this, if we had some people, and there are people like Roger Ver, I know he's a controversial guy, but he's somebody who's used his crypto wealth to do good things. If we had more and more people who are using their independent wealth to fund protest movements or activist movements, that could be really cool, and it would be hard for the state to stop that. And perhaps even the state would say, oh, they're money laundering, so we need to seize all their assets. So I can see how this could, on the surface level picture we're being told, could be the reality. But I find it very interesting that I searched and searched and searched and searched and could find nothing about Spark Alliance. I even looked on Chinese media and Chinese websites. I couldn't find anything. And anybody who can please, I haven't searched exhaustively yet, but if anybody else wants to help, it says that Spark Alliance and another more transparent fund called the 612 Humanitarian Fund are responsible for financing the protest movement. According to BBG, the two funds account for 70% of the money raised, and that's $12.7 million and another $10.4 million. So they're saying that all these donations are just coming in from wealthy professional class. It says the latest arrest risks deterring Hong Kong's professional class from giving more cash, potentially curbing a substantial source of funds. So they're claiming that just friendly, wealthy people wanting to help out protesters have donated over $22 million. Like, I don't know about you guys, and again, maybe China and Hong Kong is completely different than the U.S., but I don't know very many people who are too... I can imagine this happening in the U.S. and people just get a job, just even if it was a real organic movement. I don't know too many people who are just so happy to give away millions of dollars to protesters. And again, maybe it's because things have gotten so fucked up in Hong Kong, and they did, the extradition law that was put forth, which was, kind of seen as the whole thing that sparked this. People are pissed, people are upset, and Hong Kong is a little bit more independent minded than, mainland China. And they've been under British rule, they've been sort of under Hong Kong or under Chinese rule, and they want to be more independent. So I can understand. And here they break down the cost. They're saying $1.2 million has been emergency financial support, legal expenses, lending bail, project expenditures, medical expenses, emotional counseling, other support, toiletries and supplies for prisoners. So, and this article goes into, again, talking about Spark Alliance and 6112 Fund. And they did interview one person, I think, who is a 6112 Fund trustee, who said the group is, quote, supported by members of the public that are incensed by what is being done by police and government. The movement is ongoing, and we are using the funds for the stated purpose of humanitarian aid. We don't have any obligation to spend all the money immediately. So the other one, though, Spark Alliance, is a little bit less well known, and so people, it's kind of weird to me that even in the mainstream, they're basically... We don't know anything about this, right? This is just some organization that popped up and is now fueling this giant movement that, is trying to topple Chinese influence in Hong Kong. I mean, it's obvious that would benefit. Well, not, I mean, like, look, if the people of Hong Kong got free and had more freedom, then fuck yeah, I'm all for that. But this would obviously benefit the Western nations, the UK, and of course the United States, to have a more friendly foothold right there next to China, and to kind of get Chinese influence off of Hong Kong. So I'm just afraid, I'm a little concerned that these alleged financiers that are so private and nobody seems to know anything about could be funded by the U.S. government, intelligence agencies, different groups that they don't want us to know about. So, again, I recommend, I'll put these links in the show notes real quick, and I also recommend going back and watching this video from June earlier this year. There's something wrong with the Hong Kong protests. I definitely want you to check that out. All right, I'll post those links to you guys real quick, and then we're gonna. What do you guys want? You want another story? Or would you like to go into the there's still time to turn it all around? Should we talk about why there's still time to turn it all around? Like I said, I'm not going to be going on camera today, but if you want, we can talk about this issue, why I named it that. It wasn't just a nice, positive way to name the show, although it was that. There's a meaning behind it, and maybe we can get into that. All right. Taking a little breather. Okay, so let's talk about this. There's still time to turn things around. To turn it around. What is it? What is it? It is life. It is the path we're walking. The future we have or may not have. It's our family. It's that relationship that you're unsure about, that job, that self-esteem situation, that garden that is dying. Whatever it may be, there is still time to turn it around. That is my point. We still have time to change the direction of this planet. I fully believe that. And, when I do these videos and when I do this stream of consciousness, sharing my thoughts as they flow out, it's speaking to myself. It's like I stare in the mirror and I look at myself and I realize I'm afraid. I'm afraid right now that there might not be time to turn things around. I'm looking at all the information that I've been researching over the years and the videos I've been bringing to you guys, and I'm working on the most censored stories of 2019 and really reflecting on what's going on in our world. And a part of me makes me think it's too late. We're fucked. I can't see any path forward. I don't see any way towards the vision I have for my future, where me and the people I love can flourish and not have to worry about our freedom, our liberty, our livelihood being invaded, being tracked, being monitored, being abused, having oppressive systems hanging over our head. It seems so far away. It doesn't mean that I'm completely miserable or unhappy or depressed. I mean, in fact, the opposite is true. I'm blessed every day and I feel thankful. I'm looking out the window, I see this sunlight shining down and I see clear blue skies, no weird lines in the sky today, and I give thanks. I'm very thankful for everything I have. Yet at the same time, when I look outside of my personal world and my own personal happiness, and I look at the larger picture and I look at my other brothers and sisters, I see lots of suffering and I see lots of pain, and I see a need to get involved and to make a difference. I mean, that's what drives me every day. That's why when I wake up, I get up, I make my bed, I wash my face, and the first thing is, okay, how can I spread some important ideas today? What's something I need to do that's valuable, that's going to benefit me, that's going to spread information and empower other people? That's just the path that I'm walking. But that path is not without doubt. As I said, I definitely have days of wondering if this is all pointless. Is there any point to what I'm doing? Am I wasting my time? Am I just spinning my wheels? Do I look like a fool? Do people think I look like a fool out here doing the things I'm doing? Does it make sense? Does anybody understand? Is anybody fucking listening? But I see you, and I feel you, and I hear you. And it's because of you, especially those of you who I've been able to meet face to face, that I understand there is hope. That there is still time to turn it around. There's still ways for us to build a better world together and to overcome the chaos that does exist. I mean, because the reality is, if you haven't understood yet, friends, the world that you're looking at, the mirror that you're seeking, that you see in front of your face, is a reflection of your own private world. So if you are seeing chaos, then I would venture that there might be chaos within you. Check 1 2, check 1 2. Let me know if you can hear me coming back through or not. Check 1 2, check 1 2, check 1 2. If it's coming through, let me know. My computer died and it came back on. Sorry about that. We're good? Cool. All right. Let's do it. Where was I? Where was I? All right. So we were talking about turning things around. And what I was trying to get at, guys, is that no matter what path we're taking, we all have different paths that are kind of connecting us at this moment and leading us to connect via YouTube or social media. And those of you who I've, again, met in person or contacted more often, we've got to know each other on deeper levels. But at the end of the day, we find ourselves here on this planet as a human species, working together, trying to navigate the sea of emotions and daily chaos, and the chaos that, again, we see reflected in the outer world, I do think is indicative of something deeper inside humanity. I don't mean that we're all just fucked up walking around all miserable all the time, but I do think that on a bigger scale, there are problems with our species that are not being dealt with. And when I talk to people, talk to friends, for example, about systemic violence, or talk about like the wars, and try to tell them that, look, there's no differences between this party and that party. Donald Trump is not a hero, and neither was Obama, and they're all working on the same side. And it's there's so much lies going on that people can't even tell what's truth anymore, and that's a part of their game as well. But when I try to talk to people to really get them to understand that society and humanity's whole foundation is built on violence and force, and it's predicated on that. And so we start off with the foundation that is immoral and inherently wrong, and from there we build. And so from there we build, foundations that are not necessarily always going to be the kind that you want to sink roots into, if you get what I'm going for. So we lay a foundation of violence and of chaos, and disrespect to the planet and disrespect to each other. And there are some who are exceptions to this rule, of course, but let's just say on a whole, I mean, the things that are glamorized in the mainstream is money and chasing this fiction of the American dream, or whatever you want to call it, chasing after that sort of goal of some sort of happiness outside of yourself and outside of ourselves. And so some of us chase it in sex, men, women, drugs, alcohol, gambling, overeating, just isolation. There's so many different ways that we can do this to ourselves and take ourselves out of that balance. And I think that what we have to do is find a way, and what we try to do here at the Conscious Resistance is encourage people to find a way to find that balance inside. Yes, I bring you the news that I think is important, but as I've said before, I don't want this to be infotainment. I don't want this to just be some sort of blind consumption of, oh, more pedophiles, more this and that. I mean, as I've said plenty of times, I can do a video that's about the beauty of permaculture and how this can completely restructure the way that you design your life and can lead to all sorts of happiness. And some people won't even, bother because they're more interested and, obsessing about or hearing about the pedophiles. And again, obviously I talk about these things. I think that they're important and valuable, but to me, that's not enough. I don't want to just spend the rest of my life being a YouTuber talking about the problems. This is why I have always tried to set my activism apart and the steps that I take apart, because I focus on solutions. And the books and the things that I've written about are not just because I like hearing myself talk. They are things that I believe are necessary and valuable and can help people find their path towards freedom. That's why I do everything I do. And so I feel that we have to take that same inspiration and that same path in all of the things that you're doing in your individual lives. Try to lead a life that, and I'm not saying you need to be a YouTuber, you need to be a journalist. Just whatever it is that you're doing, try to live a life that is going to be one that encourages people to think critically, to question those around them, and believe in themselves, and to empower themselves, and to encourage them to work on their doubts, fears, and insecurities, which are our internal tyrant, which is what holds us back, which is what leads to people wanting to fuck other people over, which is what leads to people wanting to be politicians, which is what leads people to wanting to be fucking cops that beat people down. It's coming from not dealing with our own issues. We're not dealing with our own shit. I mean, it's as simple as it gets. But this message is one of hope, right? There's still time to turn it around. I do believe there's still time to turn it around. I do believe that we have the potential within each of us to overcome the bias towards division, the bias towards separation, and let go of our preconceived notions. And this doesn't mean that we're all going to hold hands and sing Kumbaya and be best friends or anything like that. I'm sure some of you are great, but I probably wouldn't want to live with you or be near you. But you're awesome at being you, and I'm awesome at being me. And the more that we recognize that and overcome the things that hold us back, I've talked about some of my impulsive behaviors, lying, cheating, using drugs, doing things in the past, and it comes back to being impulsive, to not dealing with my own emotional immaturity at these different times. So now that I have the knowledge, I can either choose to live the rest of my life like that and keep making the same mistakes, or I can choose to do something different. And so the way we turn things around is we choose to do something different. We wake up every day. Start by saying this. This is a phrase that's come to me over the years, and it stayed with me. Wake to rise to new heights. Every day when you wake up, wake to rise to new heights. You want to go further than you did the day before. You want to exceed what you've previously done. You want to be able to shine, and I don't know about you guys, but I want to be the best that I can be. I only have a short amount of time on this planet, and whatever it is that I'm supposed to do, I want to be fucking awesome at it. I want to kick ass at it. And if that means I'm going to be a botanist, if I'm going to be a journalist, if I'm going to be, a bike rider, if I'm just going to be an awesome free human being, I want to be that. So I'm striving to do that every day, to wake, to rise to new heights. And this doesn't mean every day is perfect. I had a really shitty couple of bad days this week, dealing with some bouts of depression. For those who join our Discord channel, heard me comment about that. That's one of the benefits, is I talk a little more directly in the channel. But I made it through those days, and I came away learning some lessons and understanding a little bit better about myself and how I can improve. And it's up to me, though. That's where the personal responsibility comes in. I can choose to take those lessons and cast them aside, or I can choose to use them in a valuable way. And I think so far humanity has casted the valuable lessons of history and of just experience that we've seen, and we've forgotten about them. And now we live in an era where there's a 24 news cycle and internet and everything's interconnected, and it's so hard to focus that, we have one big story one week and then another big story the next week, and we never stop to wonder who's driving this train, who's driving my attention, who's directing my attention, and through your attention, your intention. You should be the one driving your attention, and you should be the one setting your intentions. We're at the winter solstice. We're moving towards, the next revolution around the sun, we call the new year. It's time to think very intently about where you're putting your attention, and be attentive to where you're putting your intentions and how you're setting your intentions, because your intentions and where you focus your attention will direct whether or not you can turn your personal situations around. I'm sure there's something you're dealing with in your life that could be improved, maybe something you've been choosing not to deal with, whatever that may be, and whether that's a personal thing, a very close personal thing, or something on a larger scale. You're worried about the fate of the world, you're worried about the lying media, you're worried about the fate of of humanity. I'm 35 now. I told you guys my birthday was a couple weeks ago, and I'm not gonna lie, the idea of potentially having a family has continued to come into my mind more recently. But there's no fucking way I can do it with the world looking like this. And maybe that's what everybody, people are going to say, oh, that's what everybody says. You just deal with the best. No, fuck you. I'm going to make a world that is better than this. And if I'm ever going to bring life into it, because I'm going to create the life that I want. I'm not going to settle and say, well, things are bad, I guess I'll just accept it, and I'll live here in the city completely dependent on grocery stores for the rest of my life, and just complaining about the problems. And every now and then I'll come up with some good reports and bring some solutions, and I'll get some pats in the back, and I get some likes, and every now and then I'll get some investments and some donations. No, that's not enough for me. I need to be able to wake up in an environment that feels like home. I need to be able to grow the vast majority of my food. I need to be close to the land. I need to know that I can get into a safe area where there's not going to be a constant bombardment of EMFs and 5G and these sort of things, or surveillance. I need to have some level of security in order to feel comfortable to continue to flourish and grow as a human being, and to use all of those experiences and to document them via this channel and my website to show people it's possible. We don't have to stay in chains, or even if you don't consider yourself in chains, you don't have to stay into a lifestyle that makes you miserable, and you can find a way to pull out of the system, to opt out of it, to opt out of the coming technocratic state, as it were, and to opt out of the system, not even just talking governmentally, but opt out of the systems that have enslaved you. Maybe your heart has not been able to be free. You haven't allowed yourself freedom of expression to let your emotions out, whether those are happy emotions of joy or emotions of anger. You're so pissed that somebody's hurt you, it's somebody that you love, or you have pain in there. There's things that you are keeping chained in. That's another form of slavery, right? Not allowing yourself emotional freedom and spiritual freedom and mental freedom, keeping yourself in these boxes and in these chains. Sometimes the state doesn't have to do it to us. We do it to ourselves. Many times we do it to ourselves. So this is all about breaking those chains and escaping from that system, being able to, and I mean that in the physical sense, because for those who followed my work a long time, in my third book, Manifesto of the Free Humans, we talked about, I basically ended that book describing my plan to launch an intentional community in 2020, and here we are nearing 2020. My plan is still the same, and as I've realized over the years, originally I wanted to do this in Texas, in the central Texas area. I don't think the United States is going to be a place that is friendly towards freedom of the press and freedom of expression, and ultimately freedom in general, in the 2020s going into the 2030s. I haven't given up hope. I do think there's still time to turn it around, as we've said in this video, but I'm also making plans for other options, and this is why you guys have heard me talk about the counter-economic underground railroad. I've done videos on that. For those who've been following, you've also seen me talk about my upcoming books and documentaries that I'm working on. Here you can see my upcoming book. It's all about the solutions. So I'm working right now to focus on solutions. I'm putting out a documentary exposing 5G. I'm putting out a book exposing how you can be free despite the growth of the technocratic state and the digital dystopia. I'm trying to provide solutions. But one of these solutions for me is to have a place that is outside of the United States where if I need to leave, to get out because it's not safe or just whatever. I'm trying to show you guys the book, but it's not loading. I've been, just sitting here researching technocracy and learning about solutions and thinking up every solution I can dream up. And I want to make sure that no matter what happens in this coming future, that I have the ability to keep my family safe and the people that I love and care about. That's my main point, right? So I do have hope. I do believe that we can turn things around. I do believe that that's still possible. I don't think that that window is going to be there forever. And I want to make sure that if things go into a direction that is not favorable towards the development of myself as a free, beautiful human being and the people I love, that I have a way out. I have another backup place. I have somewhere to come live and build the free community. I don't want to spend my time, my money, and energy building a community in the United States only to have these statists come tell me I can't do something on my own land, or, oh no, your children have to be vaccinated, we're going to round them up, or you have to just whatever. I don't want to deal with it. So I'm finding somewhere else that feels like I can be more free, and we'll talk about that at a future date. But my point here is that I'm finding a way to turn things around in my personal life. And I'm hoping and I'm praying and doing everything I can as a human being and as a journalist to try to fight for the city I live in while I live here, and to spread awareness, to hope that other people in the United States can see what the fuck is going on and get their shit together, so that we're not just this small little club of people that talk on YouTube with each other, that this is kind of a bigger movement, so to speak, that knows what the hell's going on. Sometimes it's hard to, really see that happening. Sometimes it's really hard to imagine that people will give a shit. So many people are so content. I'm sitting here, as I said earlier, in the parking lot of a grocery store watching people come and go on their Sundays and shop and buy things, and they're happy. Maybe some of them are happy, some of them aren't happy, but they're going to spend Sundays with their family or out here in beautiful, enjoying the sun. Do they know what's going on in the world? Maybe some of them do. I'm not going to assume they're all ignorant, but a lot of them don't, and maybe don't care, or they've been propagandized one way or the other. There's a lot to overcome, but I see the beauty in humanity. I see the beauty in you, and I hope that together we can overcome and we can turn this all around. All right, guys, we got two quick stories that I want to cover. They're important to this conversation, and I hope you guys will just give me the ability to do so. Thank you guys for listening. You've been listening to / watching the Conscious Resistance Live with Derrick Broze. That's me, and we try to do this every week as often as we can. It's usually a Friday, maybe a Saturday, maybe a Sunday. I don't know what's going on, but we're doing it as often as we can. We're trying to bring the truth here and get you thinking. This is, of course, episode 104. Since 2013, I've been broadcasting this. It took me 6 years to do 104 episodes. That shows you how inconsistent I am with it. But sometimes you get busy writing books, making documentaries, doing videos, living life, being happy, being down. I don't always find time for it. But when I do, I hope you guys enjoy it, and it gives me a chance to sort of rant and let out this side of myself. And as I said, it's all about just looking in the mirror. Everything I'm saying to you guys is like I'm having a conversation with myself. I get to read your comments and you share your thoughts, and that's fun, and I appreciate that. But I'm also just saying things that I need to hear. I need to hear for myself. All right, let's get into this crypto one. Now, I've done videos already for those. I know there's plenty of people who are skeptical about cryptocurrency and don't believe that it could be a path to defeating the state. I would invite you to learn more about crypto, because the reality is decentralized cryptocurrency, decentralized blockchains could potentially be a part of a way around the technocratic state, around the technocracy that is coming our way every single day, quicker and quicker. But also, centralized currencies, tracked blockchains are definitely going to be a part of the 5G smart grid. It's just a matter of fact. A blockchain is a tool, just like a knife. It's neutral. That tool could be used to stab somebody. It could be used to cut open a loaf of bread and share it with people. Crypto blockchain could be used to send money to somebody in the poorest parts of the world who doesn't have access to banks, or it could be used to monitor everything you do and everywhere you go. But now we're seeing that the Cryptocurrency Act of 2020 is showing the direction that the United States is going. And I do think that they're going to start cracking down more on crypto. I use cryptocurrency. I accept cryptocurrency investments. Again, if you want to, since we're not doing Super Chat, if you want to send some crypto our way or some PayPal or whatever, feel free to do so. I know the value of crypto. I did 2 U.S. tours promoting cryptocurrency and telling people that this gives them an opportunity to store value, to trade value without using central banks, and the government can't control it. This is also why Ross Ulbricht and the Silk Road is such an important case, because that whole marketplace was based on Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. And so the state realizes this could threaten their monopoly, their economic monopoly. So Paul Gosar of Arizona has introduced federal legislation designed to regulate Bitcoin and the rest of the crypto sphere. It's the first legislation of its type ever. And this is going on as we've also seen the IRS increasingly saying that they're going to start cracking down on people who are using crypto and not reporting. It's like, yeah, right, come after us. But hey, again, 2020s, this is the direction we're going. Technocracy, full on. So the first type of crypto asset that they're going to regulate, because the Cryptocurrency Act of 2020, it says that there are different types of crypto assets, and it outlines them in the following way. The first type of crypto asset is what they consider to be a crypto commodity, and they define this as a crypto asset that is largely or entirely generic in nature and mostly or entirely interchangeable with slightly different versions of the same asset. Apparently, they would classify Bitcoin as being a crypto commodity, and it stipulates that the Commodities Future Trading Commission would regulate them. Then cryptocurrencies is a different class. They don't consider Bitcoin to be a cryptocurrency, apparently. It says the authors of the proposed legislation define cryptocurrency as a crypto asset representative of a national currency, such as the US dollar. So these are what are known as, they've been calling these, what's it called? Sometimes they call them synthetic derivatives, also crypto stable coins, because they're backed by a state currency or something of the sort. And these would be regulated by the Secretary of the Treasury through the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network. They also have crypto securities, which they define as all debt, equity, and derivative instruments that rest on a blockchain or decentralized cryptographic ledger. The Securities and Exchange Commission would regulate them. And then they define the fourth category as a decentralized oracle, which they said Ethereum is. And basically, this would apply to a crypto asset that as a catalyst for the execution of smart contracts resting on a blockchain, and that there would be no regulator, at least none named, for these type of assets, which could mean that people might want to invest in those currencies if they're not going to regulate them. But eventually the state's going to try to regulate all cryptocurrency action, all action on the internet. They don't want you to do anything that doesn't involve them. This is the way the state works. They got to get their freaking grubby little hands and fingers into everything that we do and live as free people. So expect more cryptocurrency legislation and more control, more tracking. I mean, I don't know what the future is. Like, you can try to use encryption, you can use VPNs, you can use all this stuff. And guys, please do use as much security as possible. We can't just give up. But we also got to remember how much we know, that was leaked, whether you trust Snowden or not, that was leaked through Snowden, showing that the NSA can crack VPNs, they can crack a lot of this different technology, and that the FBI is going hard trying to fight encryption right now because they don't want us to have access to that. So I don't know. Again, we're in that race, the sort of technological race between the good technology, and by that I mean the technology in the hands of free people and the technology in the hands of the technocrats, the oligarchs who want control of everything. It's just basically where we're going. And I agree, communism, fascism, capitalism, they're all different sides of the same coin. They can be used if there's a state involved. It's state capitalism, state communism, state fascism, all that, then it's going to be bad for sure. But technocracy, I think, is the direction that they're all heading. It might be a technocratic, communist, eco-fascist, but it's going to be technological in the sense that there's going to be technical experts and scientists who are managing society and socially engineering society. This is why I'm working on this book so hard, because I think it's essential right now to expose it, and digital technology is a big part of it. Our last story deals with more digital technology. Australia to spend $9 million on fighting what they call fake news about 5G. The Australian government hopes that this campaign will stop the spread of 5G misinformation. As Australian telecoms begin to roll out their 5G networks, they are being met with more and more opposition thanks to people who have health concerns about 5G dangers. So the Australian government decided to step in and spend $9 million Australian across 4 years to put a stop to fake news and gain, quote, public confidence in 5G. On top of this, the government will be giving extra money to the Australian Radiation Protection and Nuclear Safety Agency to do extra research on electromagnetic energy emissions. Communications Minister Paul Fletcher said on Monday, and the results will hopefully keep concerns at bay and put the public's mind to rest. And it says that organization, the Australian Radiation Protection Agency, has repeatedly said that 5G is safe and that it's carried out research, and the organization went head-to-head with individuals who claimed to exposure to electromagnetic hypersensitivity had caused them to feel effects. The group claimed, quote, "We believe them. However, when double-blind testing is conducted with such individuals, we don't see a connection to electromagnetic fields. There have been a range of double-blind placebo trials that have tested such individuals." The agency stated that while the frequency used in 5G means some energy is absorbed into the body, it is, according to them, too low to create any significant heating of tissue. But that's the problem, is that these agencies believe, or they try to say, that the only problems occur whenever heating occurs. So it's more than heating. It's it's actually affecting us down to the DNA level. This is why my documentary is going to expose the difference between ionizing and non-ionizing radiation and how that affects our health. The Australian government hopes that fighting fake news and investing in additional 5G research will restore customer confidence in new mobile networks. So that's what it's all about. They're just basically saying they got to go out there and spread as much of their propaganda so that they can get people to have faith in 5G. And the last one is sort of related to it. We are talking about this FCC test finding cell phones comply with federal limits. That's according to the Chicago Tribune. Now, I covered this one a while back. You guys may remember the Chicago Tribune did a test where they looked at several of the most popular cell phones and found that they were emitting levels of radiation that were much higher than the legal allowable limit. Now, of course, that whole thing, this is what's important to know, the legal allowable limit by the FCC, as I pointed out, and as I will point out in this upcoming documentary, there are already studies that show health problems at levels that the FCC claims are okay. So they claim it's legal, it's good, it's everything's good, but then certain studies are already finding health problems. Well, a couple months back, the Chicago Tribune went out and bought a bunch of most popular phones, and they bought them off the shelf, which is different from what the FCC did. They bought them just straight up off the shelf. They got an accredited lab, which is approved by the FCC, that the FCC has used previously, and they tested all these phones, and they found a number of them were emitting levels just dangerously high. The FCC said, oh no, that's not right, and Apple and the other providers said, oh no, you didn't do it this way, or you held it the wrong way. And now the FCC has gone back and done their own tests and said, nope, there's nothing to see here, everything's safe. But researchers who were involved in the Chicago Tribune's test basically say they don't trust it, that it seems like their tests were set up in order to pass, because the FCC claims that they had to get special equipment from the manufacturers in order for them to work right, and basically saying that, and you have Deborah Davis of the Environmental Health Trust saying the FCC's process seemed designed to pass the phones, and a spokesperson for the FCC said using the company's software was necessary to achieve accurate results. Manufacturers, he said, can request confidentiality for their devices' technical details to provide trade secrets. The tests were conducted independently by FCC lab. So, interestingly enough, though, like I said, lab owner who did the original test rejected the results, saying that the Tribune's original tests were done in accordance with the detailed FCC rules and guidelines. He filed a 100-page report that the Tribune shared with the government and manufacturers, and he said after he reviewed the FCC's testing, he wondered why they didn't buy all their phones off the shelf, saying that this gives the manufacturers the opportunity to pre-test phones to ensure that the ones they're handing over are going to pass the FCC's testing. And he also asked why the FCC needs special software supplied by manufacturers to complete the testing. He says, quote, I do testing for laptops that have sensors in there, and I don't have any special software. So I guess it's just up to you. Who are you going to trust? The independent lab that worked with the Chicago Tribune, or the FCC that we know is filled with telecom lawyers and lobbyists and has basically forced 5G down the world's throat? I mean, it's up to you. Do you want to trust these guys or trust them? Again, cell phones are a huge danger. Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, these things, it's not that they're going to kill you on the first, exposure. That's obviously that's not true, but it's the constant surrounding exposure that we are living in, that we are going to see with 5G. This is the problem, and it's a cumulative thing that builds up over time, and people think this could be resulting in depression, mass depression, as well as some of the cancers and things we've seen. There's really no way for us to truly know how this is impacting all of us, unfortunately, at the moment. And yeah, I'm just trying to keep up with it, guys, because there's so much going on. I think that there's an article that I found by The Nation a couple years ago, or last year, that was called How Big Wireless Convinced Us That Cell Phones Are Safe, and they called that one of the most top censored stories of 2018, and they're comparing it to big tobacco in the 50s, and it's the same propaganda. There's billions of dollars, trillions of dollars being put into this industry to roll forward this thing for one reason or another. You can think it's population control, mind control, invasion of privacy, profit. There's a lot of reasons probably, but they're pushing it through one way or the other, and they're not giving us much of an option. So I don't know. This is just what we're dealing with. That's the world we're dealing with right now. I'm going to go ahead and post the articles, the 5G Australia fake news one for those right there. Boom, if you want to check that out. And I'm going to post the FCC story as well for those who want to check that out if you haven't heard those. Please do spread those links around, guys. The reason I do this video, again, as I said earlier, if you heard the long rant, and again, sorry about the delay mid-show. It like paused for 5 to 10 minutes. My computer died for a second. But thank you to everybody who hung out and stayed through and who's been hanging out with us. Go back and rewatch the show if you want to. I'm going to try to cut out that little break in the middle of the segment if I can. But that's all I got for today, guys. I'm going to leave it there. I'm just trying to share information. I hope you guys will continue to share this information with people that you care about and people that you want to reach, and that we can keep working together to do that, because that's the only way that we will turn it around, is if we take action. As I was saying earlier with my little long-winded rant about turning things around, we have to change our daily steps, our intentions, and our attention, where we put our attention and how we set our intentions, if we want to change the direction of our path. So please consider that as you go forward with the rest of your Sunday and the rest of your week. Tomorrow evening, I will be live. We'll be live streaming Freethinker Radio. Again, that's on 90.1 in Houston, but we're starting to live stream it through the YouTube channel. We're going to be live streaming tomorrow night, Monday, and maybe next Friday's episode. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day and stay tuned for more videos. Until next time, remember, you are powerful, you are beautiful, and you are free. Peace.